This is a WithNoFiller video, so obviously we're gonna look at some charts. In fact, here's a chart about charts and how they make people quit watching. Woohoo! Are you still there? Good, because this is a video that everyone playing Diablo 2 should see, newcomers and veterans alike. If you spend even a few minutes watching this video, you can hopefully speed up to where you save hours in the long run, so it's in your benefit to keep watching the whole thing. You probably know that this game randomly generates most of its maps, and it creates a new set of maps every time you play if you play online. This is done to keep the game fresh and to provide a new experience each time, but unfortunately that means that you can easily waste a lot of time looking for the next area. If the maps are always changing, then there's no way you can know where to go, right? Well, what if I told you it's not completely random, almost every place does have a simple way to navigate, and today you're going to learn how to have a map hack in your mind. No one's done a video like this before, right? Oh, what? Okay, so Mr. Llama SC already made a video called Map Hack in Your Mind. It was such a useful video, so I'm going to try to speedrun that material for you, plus a lot more. To be fair, that was a live stream, and Llama impressively explained most of the game's maps in one take. I'm just using a different format where I'm able to go deeper. I also condensed some of the material from Llama's 18-part speedrunning series, and I watched many hours of map tutorials from some of my other favorite YouTubers, and I searched through forums, and I relied heavily on this excellent breakdown by Teo1904. Basically, my two main sources are the winners of Ladder Season 1 and 2. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and who knows, maybe you can use this video to stop them from dunking on you in the next ladder season. I mean, realistically it's really unlikely, realistically you're gonna get owned. But you can take comfort knowing that Llama will never be able to dunk on you, as hard as he inadvertently dunks on me. Anyway, I linked all my sources in this video's description, and I tested all this research to make sure it was accurate, but if I got anything wrong or missed anything, let me know and I will put it in the video description. Okay, introductions out of the way, now it's time to fly. First I'm going to explain how to look at the maps, and then I'll show you what to do in every area. Here's what you need to know. The maps in this game are made up of a bunch of tiles, which are kind of like jigsaw pieces that can fit together in a lot of different ways. So that's how you can get wildly different maps each time. When the game generates a map, it starts with a tile for the entrance, then it places a tile for the exit to the next level, and then it fills in the rest randomly from there. This next part is important. The positioning of the exit tile almost always depends on the positioning of the entrance tile. So right after you enter a level, you want to take a good look at the entrance you're standing in, because most of the time, this is all the info you need to have a great guess at how to get to the exit. The first question you should ask is, which way does the entrance pathway send me? When I say that, I'm not talking about which way the stairs are facing, I'm not talking about which way your character is facing, and I'm not talking about which way the doors around it are facing. I am talking about which direction the overall hallway is facing, the direction of the tile's pathway. If you cannot go this way, can't go this way, and can't go this way, then the hallway and the tile are facing this way. Put simply, the entrance tile is the start of a pathway, and that pathway is trying to send me a certain direction. Here's another one. Stairs are facing in a weird direction, but we don't care. We only care about the pathway. We cannot go here, here, or here, so the pathway points this way. If you just arrived at a waypoint and there's only one way you can go, then that's the way the tile is facing there. If you just entered a cave, this whole blob is the entrance tile, and this little walkway connecting it to the rest of the cave is the direction the tile is pointing. Every cave has a big chamber for the entrance tile, with a pathway pointing a certain direction. There are so many other kinds of entrance tiles, and I'll show you examples of all of them in a minute, but we need to know how to find the exits first. Now here's something you just have to remember. In most of the caves and dungeons in the game, the pathway to the exit is 90 degrees counterclockwise from the entrance pathway. That was a lot of words. This will be way easier to understand if you make your character face the same direction that the entrance pathway is trying to send you. Line them up with that arrow we just drew. Now put yourself in your character's shoes. In this tower cellar example, you want to prepare to make a left turn at some point, so you can face the same way as the exit path. A left turn is the same thing as turning your character's body 90 degrees counterclockwise, but I'm going to try to say turn counterclockwise and turn clockwise instead of turn left and turn right, to keep it from getting confusing when we go back to the third-person view that you play the game in. So if you proceed forward, and then when you get the chance, turn your character left, meaning 90 degrees counterclockwise from the entrance pathway, then a lot of times that will take you directly to the next level. And if it doesn't immediately take you there, it will usually be somewhere on that side of the map, and you'll know that you can generally exclude the other side of the map. That saves you all the time you would have spent looking around over here, for example. Let's try another one. Entrance hallway is pointing this way, so before I even take a step, I already know that the exit tile will be in a hallway that points this way. I'm 100% sure of that. My guy will need to make one counterclockwise 90-degree turn to face the same direction as the exit. Like I said, sometimes it's not the very first left turn. That's okay, just keep trying to find pathways that point that way, and boom, there's the exit. Here's another one. Entrance hallway is this way, so I'm looking for an exit facing this way. And there it is. It's hard to describe how satisfying it is to go to the exact right place without even knowing what the map looks like. It feels so good. But you don't want to lose your shirt with excitement quite yet, because that's already been done, and because it's not going to be that simple 100% of the time. You see, the higher the difficulty, the harder some of the maps get. And especially in Hell difficulty, there are rare situations where the map can generate like this. Simply turning left does not work in this situation. The game doesn't care whether you turn left or turn right. It only cares that the entrance and exit are 90 degrees apart, which they still are in this example. As soon as you realize you're in a map like this, you want to bail on the strategy I just told you about, and go look around by where you came in. You know that the map is an unfortunate one like this if it doesn't let you turn left.
I can't turn left. I'm not an ambi-turner.
The bigger the map, the more likely you are to encounter this problem. But this does not happen that often, especially not in smaller maps, so you're better off just sticking with the strategy by default. All of the examples so far have been in areas where you go counterclockwise, but that is not always the case. Some places you have to go clockwise, which is the exact same thing, but you have your character turn right from the entrance pathway instead of left. There are just not many levels like this. Here's a list of the areas and situations where you go clockwise. Now, here's a list of everywhere you go counterclockwise. A lot more. There are also a few places where you go straight. By that I mean the entrance and exit tiles are aligned with one another, so your best bet is to simply continue in whichever direction the entryway points you. For example, this underground passage map. The entrance tile points this way, and the exit tile points the same way. It's not always going to be straight ahead, but it usually is because the tile's directions are aligned. So I've talked about counterclockwise, straight, and clockwise maps. I'm going to call these three categories the angular maps, because the entrance and exit are oriented at a specific angle relative to one another. Unfortunately, there are still some areas that have no rhyme or reason, and when you enter these locations, there's not a known way to consistently guess where the exit is. You're flying completely blind. I call this investing in crypto. I'm calling them random maps. Not as many as you would think. Only 5 total maps out of all of them are random. So this means you can have an effective game plan for roughly 96% of the maps in the game. Isn't that great? Let's keep going. Next we have the easiest ones, the types of fixed maps. Sometimes a level has the exact same layout every time, like Travancore. It always looks like this. In this video, I'm calling those fixed maps. That might seem redundant, but it'll make more sense in a second. And I'm gonna show you the layout to every one of these so you can know exactly where to head every time. Very easy. Some of my source material said the palace in Act 2 was fixed, but when I tested it, I got different layouts. Regardless, in the palace, the entrances and exits are always in the same corners every time, no matter what. So I'm calling that fixed enough. There are several other maps like this. Basically, there is some randomness to the tiles. The map can spawn a lot of different ways, but those ways are very similar, and you can head roughly the same way every time. It's fixed enough. Sometimes a map can only generate one way or the other, like Tower Cellar level 5. It can only look exactly like this or exactly like that. I'm calling this an alternating fixed map. This one's still really easy because those ways are pretty much a mirror of each other. But some of these alternating fixed maps have more than 2 options, like Frozen River, which has 4. This is alternating fixed because it can only be one of these 4 totally different pre-built fixed maps. I'm only calling it alternating fixed if the number of exact ways the level can generate is less than 10. If there's 62 million ways for a level to generate, then I'm not including that here. So that was the fixed categories. Before we go through each level, I need to cover what I call the outdoor maps. It's the last major class of maps. These are the maps where you're out in the wilderness. Most of the outdoor maps in the game are simply big squares or big rectangles, and there's a special skinny rectangle for Act 3. All of these have specific rules, which I'm about to cover, but generally, for the square and rectangle maps, there's an entrance on one side, an exit on one of the other sides, sometimes a cave dungeon or portal somewhere in the middle. Then the map generation always takes some bites out of the edges, and it adds some gaps and features in the middle. Basically, it Swiss cheeses the map. Then if it's Act 1, it gives you a little pathway connecting the entrance and the exit, and you're gonna love those paths because they basically do all the work for you. And there you have it. That's literally how the game made this stony field map I'm in. It's how it makes all the big outdoor maps. This kind of blew my mind when I first heard it. It makes the game so much simpler when you know this. It's just a bunch of rectangles that have been Swiss cheesed. These outdoor maps have specific rules, which I will cover as we go through them. Like Act 3's outdoor maps, where you pretty much just head northeast.
We travel together, east, always into the east.
Don't listen to Marius. It's not always east. I mean, right after he lost his tour guide, he got killed, so what does that tell you? Anyway, there are some maps in the game that are technically outdoors, but they're the exact same every time. In that case, I put them in the fixed category instead. I'll explain the tricks to navigating these when we get there. But for now, we have our 10 different classifications. These top ones are the most common for their category. Really, this is easier if you just look at it as 3 main categories, and then random maps where I can't help you. Based on those classifications, here's a master list I made of every single area and what type of map it is. I made sure to specify whether you're coming from the waypoint or from the entrance, on the levels where that matters. Literally, I work all day, and then in my free time I make stuff like this.
This surely is the product of a twisted mind.
Alright, did you take your screenshot yet? Now we're going to go through every level in the game fast. Stay with me because there's still a lot more you need to know. Using the color coding of those 10 categories I showed you, I made a flowchart for every act. Here's Act 1. The arrows with the blue outline are the necessary path, and the orange outlines are the optional areas. So, let us begin. We start the game in Rogue Encampment. I call this an alternating fixed area, and I'm color coding it as such because there are 4 possible layouts depending on which side the exit is on. Here's what all 4 can look like. It's worth noting that most of the time during my testing for this video, I got an exit on the southeast side. So that was town. When you step outside, the first level is Blood Moor. This map is always in the shape of a big rectangle. It can generate so many ways, but all you have to do is follow the pathway. It's so easy. It usually runs straight to the Den of Evil, which is always a 3-tile map. It's always an entrance tile, a left turn connector tile, and a dead end tile. The Den of Evil can generate in a lot of different ways, but all of them are in this same L shape. Some of these entrance tiles are used again in other Act 1 maps, so it's helpful if you can recognize them. No matter what the area, if it has any waypoints, bosses, quests, or chests, I might not talk about it, but I will let you know about those over on the side. I tried to find how many champions and uniques spawn at each location, but I couldn't find anything reliable enough to pass on to you. If I do find that out, you can bet it's going in the video description. I think there's enough space here. So if we go back outside, you can get back on that dirt road, which I will call Convenient Street. You can follow that road all the way to the exit. Then you get to a small connector tile with Flavy Flav, which connects to the Cold Plains. The Cold Plains can be a lot of different ways, but here's an example. I had to Frankenstein some of these maps together, so bear with me. Cold Plains is a big square, and 3 sides of the square will always connect to a different map, and you will have no more than 1 thing per side. One side has the entrance, which is always next to the waypoint. One of the other 3 sides is the exit to Burial Grounds, which is always near a corner. And then one of the sides has an exit to Stony Field, which is always around the middle of that side of the square. Cold Plains has a big crossroad connecting all of these things, and that road also leads to the cave. Usually there's no reason to go into the cave, but if you insist, then go counterclockwise to get to level 2, which is a fixed map that looks like this every time. There's a shiny golden treasure chest over there on the right side. Golden chests sometimes need a key, and they do not show up on the map unless you need them for a quest, so I added them to the fixed maps that I screenshotted, like this one. In Act 1, there's a side quest in the Burial Grounds, which is also a fixed map. It's the same every time. In the middle of it, you have an entrance to the crypt and to the mausoleum. In both of these, you'll go counterclockwise to get to the shiny golden chests. These are the first maps you come across that scale up in size as you get to higher difficulties. There are not many maps that do this, but if they do, I will say that they scale in size over here on the side. Back outside, Stony Field is also a big square. You just follow the path from the entrance to the exit, which is called the Underground Passage. Here's the example I showed you earlier. The exit to Underground Passage can either be in the side of a cliff on the border of the map, or in a hole which looks like this. Most of the Act 1 caves can have either of those entrances. You can get a weird Stony Field map like this, where the entrance is right by the exit, and the rest of the map is kind of dead space. The waypoint here is placed randomly. Also, if you're looking for a good book on tape, there's always a tile somewhere here with a moldy tome.
And so it came to pass that the Countess, who once bathed in the rejuvenating...
Alright, directly off of the path, there are these rocks called Karen stones? With these stones, you can eventually activate a portal to Tristram, and Tristram is the exact same every time. You can grab Wirt's leg from up here, and after you beat the game, you can go back to town and make a portal to the cow level, which is basically a big square map called Moo Farm. The Moo Farm portal usually spawns close to the middle, and the Cow King is around a map tile that looks like this. Back to the main storyline, we want to exit Stony Field to enter the Underground Passage. In the Underground Passage, the exit to Dark Wood is straight, and you go counterclockwise to get to level 2. Here's the example from earlier. Entrance points this way, straight to Dark Wood, and counterclockwise to level 2. If you see a group of red-colored Fallens, that's usually a dead-end block, according to Mr. Llama. So if you see the red guys, turn around and save yourself the time. You don't have to go to level 2 here, but if you do, it's a fixed map that looks like this. From Underground Passage level 1, you take the exit to Dark Wood, which is a big square. The waypoint and the Tree of Inifis are located randomly in this level, but besides that, this level is easy because you just follow the pathway to the exit, which is called Black Marsh. Black Marsh is also a big square with a path connecting the entrance to the exit, which is called Tamo Highland. Tamo? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but also, I don't care. The exit to Tamo will never be on the bottom left side of the Black Marsh. Tamo never flies southwest. It's just how I remember it. The waypoint in Black Marsh is randomly placed. Waypoints will have 2 torches by either side, so they're easier to find at night. And there's also an optional cave called the Hole, where you go counterclockwise to get to level 2. Level 2 is fixed, and it looks like this every time. The Black Marsh has another dungeon called the Forgotten Tower. Ironically, it's not a tower and nobody forgot about it. It's actually not too hard to find, because it's typically close to the border of the map. That's really handy to know if you're doing Countess runs. I think the entry to the Forgotten Tower is the smallest level in the game, but then you get to the Tower Cellar levels 1 through 4, and these get bigger if you're in a higher difficulty. I talked about these levels earlier. You go counterclockwise until you get to level 5, where you fight the Countess. Level 5 is an alternating fixed map, which can only be one of these two ways. The Countess is in the back somewhere. One thing I didn't say earlier is whenever you see this room with pillars around, there's a super chest here in the middle. A super chest is a loaded up chest with a higher chance of dropping good stuff. Usually it explodes with treasure when you open it. Back outside, Tamo Highland is a big square, and it's a super easy one because the pathway connects the entrance to the exit. This path takes you by the entrance to the pit, which I'll talk about in a second. And the exit is always this huge wall on the upper right side of your screen, called the Monastery Gate. The Monastery Gate is a fixed map that extends all the way along the edge, even over here. This is basically an attachment to the next map, the Outer Cloister. Outer Cloister is an alternating fixed map. It can be one of 3 different configurations, and the exit is on a different side in each one. It's pretty easy to memorize though if you look at where the waypoint is. If there's a garden in the middle that's the shape of a plus sign, then you go to the upper right side of the screen. If the waypoint is to the right of the fountain and next to a rectangle garden, then you go to the upper right. If the waypoint is to the left of the fountain by an L-shaped garden, then you go to the lower right side of the screen. I skipped over the pit a second ago, but it's a good one to know because it's a high-level farming area, and it's really easy to get to. All you have to do is take that Outer Cloister waypoint and follow the path backward toward the bottom left of your screen. It leads you straight to the pit. Once you're in the pit, you go counterclockwise to get to level 2, which is a fixed map that looks like this. Okay, so back to the main journey. We just left Outer Cloister to enter the barracks. The barracks is a weird one because you either want to go straight or counterclockwise. One way will take you to the Malice, and the other way will take you to the next level, called Jail Level 1. And it's random which one is which. It's the only level like this that I know of. When you get to the next level, Jail Level 1, the waypoint is counterclockwise from the entrance, and the next level is straight from the entrance. Here it is represented a little differently. Now, if you're coming from the waypoint, then the next level is counterclockwise from that. I used the green counterclockwise color for the title because that's how it is from the waypoint. In Jail Level 2, you go straight to get to the next level. And in Jail Level 3, you go counterclockwise again. And then you finally exit to the Inner Cloister, which is a fixed map. The Inner Cloister is kind of a package deal with the next level, the Cathedral. And together they always look like this. You go to the upper right of your screen through the Cathedral, then you take this little door on the east side to get to Catacombs Level 1. Catacombs Level 1 is seemingly random. Though that is unfortunate, maybe I can still help you. According to Llama, if you see tiles like this or this, those are dead-end tiles. As soon as you start to see them, you can turn around. There are ways to read the catacomb hallway tiles to save some time, especially if you cannot teleport. I put a link to a breakdown of this by MacroBioBoy, as seen here, perpetually trying to put on a druid pelt. I could have sworn he's a high enough level to equip that. I'm just playing, the dude's a legendary speedrunner. He has multiple world records for beating the game without even attacking anything. Anyway, he said that most of the catacomb hallways have 2 lanes, and one of those lanes usually has a lot of dead ends, but there's a way to kind of beat that. I'm gonna mess it up if I try to explain, so go check out his video if you're interested. In Catacombs Level 2, you have a waypoint, and from that waypoint you always go clockwise to get to the next level. But I didn't see a consistent way to read the entrance. Maybe you can figure out something from these maps I got. Fortunately, you're probably going to be taking the waypoint most of the time, so it's not a huge setback. Next is Catacombs 3. Unfortunately, there's no special way to read this one. It's a madhouse out there.
It's a madhouse!
Here's an example of one that I got, so you can see the entrance and the exit. I guess just pick a direction and go. When you get to Catacombs 4, that's a fixed map. It always looks like this. The monsters can open this door, but they cannot open the big door. So you can trap them in there if you want to have an easier time fighting Andariel, who's the final boss of Act 1. When you beat Andariel, you can travel east to Act 2, which looks like this. You start out Act 2 in the town of Lut Golain. This is an alternating fixed map. The city's gate can either be here or here, but the rest of the city is virtually identical. The palace and the 2 entrances to the sewers are in the same place every time. This game loves to send you into the sewers. It's always giving you multiple entrances to get there. We can see and hear video games, but I'm glad we don't have to smell them, because this game would be a stinker. The best way into the sewer is the south side of town, because I tested it and around 75% of the time, the next level was close to that South Ocean entrance. Basically when you go in, you want to check to the left and the right of this ocean entrance. If the exit's not in either of those places, then there's usually a long hallway with the exit at the end. It's not 100% of the time, so I will label this one as fixed enough with a question mark.
Fixed enough?
When you get to Sewers Level 2, the waypoint will be counterclockwise from the entrance, and the next level is straight. If you're coming from the waypoint, then you'll go counterclockwise to get to the next level. In Level 3, you go counterclockwise to get to the tile with the boss Radamant in it. Back up on the surface, in Act 2, you pass through the town gates into Rocky Waste. In Act 2, all the outdoor maps are big squares, and this is important. The entrances and the exits are close to the corners of the maps, so always head for the corners in Act 2. According to Llama, if you see this indent, it means that the exit is not in this corner. Also, if you get to a corner and see that there's an L with a long side and a short side like this, that means there cannot be an exit here. As soon as you see the L, you take the L and you try somewhere else. In the big square that is the Rocky Waste, the exit cannot be on the same side as the entrance from town. The Stony Tomb is placed somewhere randomly in the Rocky Waste. In Stony Tomb level 1, you go counterclockwise to get to level 2, and there you go counterclockwise to get to the chest, or straight to fight the super unique mini-boss. Rocky Waste is flat, but the other 3 wilderness maps in Act 2 have a high ground section and a low ground section, separated by a rock face and connected by little staircases. These can be 3/4 high ground or half high ground, so it can be one of these 3 ways. Dry Hills has features like that. Unfortunately, the waypoint and the entrance to Halls of the Dead are placed randomly. If you already have a Herodric Cube, then you can skip Halls of the Dead. But if you're playing solo, you have to go here once per character. Halls of the Dead level 1 is counterclockwise. Level 2 is counterclockwise to get to the next level, or straight to get to the waypoint. If you're coming in from the waypoint, the next level will be clockwise from that perspective. Then in level 3, you go counterclockwise to get to the boss and the cube area. Back outside, Dry Hills connects to Far Oasis. In the Outdoor Act 2 maps, the first thing when you enter a new area, you want to figure out which corner you're in. The exit can only be in one of the corners that doesn't have the entrance. Again, Far Oasis has a high ground, low ground situation. The bad news is that the waypoint and the maggot lair are randomly placed, but at least those 2 things are pretty close together usually. So you proceed into Maggot Lair, everybody's least favorite hole in the sand. You want to go clockwise in the Maggot Lair for both levels 1 and 2. It's one of the only clockwise caves. It has some unique tiles. For instance, this entrance tile is technically pointing this way, according to Llama. When you get to level 3, the entrance always faces to the upper left. You simply go straight to get to the boss in the chest with the staff in it. Back outside, we exit Far Oasis near one of the corners to enter the Lost City, another high ground, low ground map with a randomly placed waypoint. In the Lost City, there's a trapdoor randomly placed, and if you open that, it gives you an entrance to the ancient tunnels, where you go counterclockwise to get to that chest. Back outside, the exit from the Lost City into Valley of the Snakes cannot be on the south corner of the Lost City, so don't check there. Valley of the Snakes is a fixed map. You just go to the middle and there's the temple. Inside the Claw Viper Temple, level 1 is counterclockwise and level 2 is fixed. After that, you go back to town. What should we do? How about the harem? Harem level 1 is fixed, level 2 is right there next to it, the whole thing is really easy. It's 4 tiles, and each one can generate at least 2 different ways, so I think we have at least 16 different possibilities, but the entries and exits are always in the same spot, so I classified this as fixed enough. You just have to head to the top or the bottom of your screen. Palace Cellar level 1 is the same way, with a waypoint in the lower middle. Level 2 is also a similar layout to that. And in level 3, the portal and the mini-boss are in the middle, and this portal leads to the Arcane Sanctuary. The Arcane Sanctuary has all these symbols on the floor. I want to crack the code, but I don't think there is one, because this is supposedly one of the 5 random maps in the game. There are always 4 branches which are laid out similarly. One of them is a nightmare of portals put into the game to make you miserable. That's right across from the best one, the easy flat one. The other 2 are a stairs one and a weird stairs one. Independent of that, 3 of the branches will have super chests, and the 4th one will have the summoner on it. It's just a random guess at which branch the summoner spawns on. I wish I had something better for you here. But one way you can save time, if you teleport, there's a place where each arm gets close to the other one, so you can save yourself a bit of time that way. And if you don't have teleport, go get it. There are staffs that give you teleport, and you can buy them from NPCs in the game. Just make sure you get one with charges, not the plus to skill. You'll have to repair it to keep teleporting, so don't go nuts, but it'll really help out. Anyway, Tal Rasha has 7 different symbols, but you only see 6 back here behind the summoner. Whichever one is not shown is the symbol of the true tomb of Tal Rasha. So if it doesn't pop up on your quest window, that's how you can tell which tomb has Duriel. And if you can't remember the symbols, you could always get a tattoo of them. You leave the Arcane Sanctuary through a portal to the Canyon of the Magi. You pop out right by the waypoint. The lower part of the map has several different random tiles, but the top of the map, the part that matters, is always the same. There are 7 tombs here, one for each of the symbols. They are always in the map in this order, and you go counterclockwise in every one of these tombs. This leads you to a shiny chest in each of the false tombs, and it leads you to the orifice in the true tomb. After you put the staff in the orifice, it opens a door to Tal Rasha's chamber, which is a fixed map where you fight Duriel. When you beat him, you're finally done with Act 2. For style points after you talk to Jaren, you can save a few seconds by going into the harem and town portaling to the other side of town, because it'll put you right next to this guy, who takes you to Act 3. Here's a flowchart of all of Act 3. You can see that things are gonna get kinda weird. In Act 3, town is called Kurast Docks, and it's always the exact same. But as soon as you step outside, Act 3 gets really strange. It has these windy jungle levels that can appear in a different order. Well, let's demystify those jungle levels. They're actually surprisingly easy. Each one is simply a long skinny rectangle, 2 tiles wide by 6 tiles long. in order of appearance from bottom to top. Let's say that these are row 1, and these are row 2, and 3, and so forth. Okay, the entrance will be on row 1, and the exits will either be on 3, 5, or 6. Usually if the exit is on 6, then the next level is straight ahead this way. Here's an actual spider forest map that I got. If you look at it as a 2x6 rectangle, it makes a lot more sense. The entrance was on row 1, and the exit was on 5. It's how all 3 of the skinny rectangle levels work. They have an entrance on 1, exits can be on 3, 5, or 6, and then row 1 for the spider forest is always connected to town, and row 6 for the flare jungle is always connected to the rest of the act. With those rules, these 3 maps can be arranged in so many different ways. Sometimes you can completely skip the Great Marsh, sometimes it's your only way through. Another thing that all 3 of these levels have in common, they each have camps, which are little forest clearings. That's what these blobs are in the map. Each level usually has 3 camps, but there can be fewer. The dungeons for these levels are located in those camps, and one of these 3 camps will have the waypoint every time. Obviously, you're going to be flying blind when you do this, so let's look at a few easy to read tiles. Whenever you see this double bridge tile, then the trail is going to branch toward the bottom right of the screen. If you see a lopsided wishbone with a dead end in the river like this, then there's usually an entrance to a camp right above it. If you see 2 posts like this on top or like this on the bottom, then you're looking at an entrance to a camp or to another level. And one last thing, whenever the river makes you turn a corner, check the outside of that corner because it might be an entrance to where you need to go. In all of these jungle levels, the river is your friend. Generally hug the north side of the river, try to stay above it and head northeast. Okay? So I showed you a fairly typical looking Act 3. Now here's a weird one. In this one, I could have completely skipped the Great Marsh. The 3 levels in this one are all piled together like I'm about to dominate at Tetris. And here's a rare occurrence. If you look, you see there's a tiny little backwoods connector path here, and I'm pretty sure it's on row 4 of the Great Marsh. Usually the connecting paths are only on 3, 5, and 6, but sometimes there are little extra ones, which is not a bad thing. It's a pretty standard looking spider forest though. You enter on 1, the exits are on 3, 5, and 6. We have that double bridge tile here, which means there's a path going this way, and you see the exact same thing up here too. Here are the 3 camps in this level. Every time, one of those camps will have the spider cavern. Another camp will have both the waypoint and the arachnid lair, and the 3rd camp will be empty if it's even there. You don't have to go to the arachnid lair, but you do have to go to the spider cavern, which is like if someone searched for synonyms of arachnid lair. You have to go to the spider cavern for the Kalim's Will quest. It's where you get the eye.
Thank you, sweet rabbit.
The spider cavern is a big map that's 4 tiles. Each of these tiles can show up 2 or 3 different ways, and that means there's a lot of different combinations, but it's fixed enough because no matter what, the entrance tile is always over here, and the quest treasure chest is always over here. If you cannot teleport, then you want to take a pathway that's in the shape of a spiral. The chest will be along the bottom left wall toward the bottom. The other cave like this, the arachnid lair, is the same way, except the treasure chest is always in this opposite corner. It's fixed enough. Back outside, let's look at the Great Marsh. The Great Marsh will have 1 camp with a waypoint, and the other camps have golden chests. Up next, the Flare Jungle is the last of the jungle levels. Its row 1 can have an entrance from the Great Marsh, or from the Spider Forest, or from both. In this case, it was just connected to the Spider Forest. And the last row always has the exit to Lower Kurast. You'll know you're right by the exit if you see a big pile of gold on the ground like this. Looking at the Flare Jungle as a whole, here are your 3 camps. One of those camps will have the Flare Dungeon and the whatever. Another camp always has the waypoint and the entrance to Swampy Pits. And the 3rd camp is just a camp. Both the Flare Dungeon and the Swampy Pits are counterclockwise for their first 2 levels, and then they are both alternating fixed on the 3rd levels. Swampy Pit level 3 can be any one of these 6 horrible mazes, but this is an optional area, thank God, so don't bother memorizing them. You do have to go to Flare Dungeon level 3 to progress through the game. There are 6 different horrible mazes here too. I ran this a few dozen times and I got 5 of the maps, but there's a rare 6th one that wouldn't show up for me, so I screenshotted it from a video by Resonating Low. By the way, she puts together great Diablo 2 videos, very underrated. So when you enter Flare Dungeon level 3, you should be able to match your entrance up with one of these here, and then you'll know where to go. I hope you got that teleport staff. Okay, so back outside, let's say we just crossed over from the Flare Jungle into Lower Kurast, which is a big square. This is the really easy part of Act 3. The next several levels are built like this every time. You enter Lower Kurast here in the middle, then the exit is either in the top corner or on the right corner. Then the next map after that, the Kurast Bazaar, always has an exit on the opposite corner from the entrance, so it looks like this or this. And then Upper Kurast, you exit in the middle to get to the other 2 fixed maps. What's weird is, these 3 levels here, they're connected to the Stony Fields. You heard me right, Stony Fields from Act 1. If you entered into Stony Fields from the top left or the bottom right side of the map, then the exit from Lower Kurast to Kurast Bazaar will be on the top. If you entered the Stony Fields from the top right or bottom left, then the exit to Kurast Bazaar will be on the right. So for example, in this game I leave Cold Plains and enter the Stony Fields on this side. Based on that rule I just told you, the Lower Kurast exit should be on the right side, right? Let's check. And there it is. So basically, if you know the entry to Stony Fields, then you know your exact path through this whole chunk of Act 3. This is fascinating to me because it means there are probably other secrets that no one's figured out yet after more than 20 years. It's just another reason why I love this game. Anyway, the Lower Kurast waypoint is placed randomly. A lot of people play single player and set the difficulty to 8-player hell. Then they search Lower Kurast for Superchests, which you find by looking for the circles of torches like this. There's usually at least one of these torch circles somewhere in Lower Kurast. When you find the circle of torches, hit all the chests in the 2 buildings to the north of it. For example, this is a super chest. So is this, and so is this. Up next we have Kurast Bazaar, which is another big square. Like I said earlier, the exit is the opposite corner from the entrance. Kurast Bazaar has 2 entrances to the sewer that are in the same location every time. The waypoint is randomly placed, and so are these 2 little temples. Both of these temples are alternating fixed maps. The ruined temple can be any one of these 3 layouts, and it's guarded by the mini-boss Battlemaid Serena.
Battlemaid Serena.
She was a battlemaid, battle and battles.
Battlemaid Serena.
Wait, Durga, no!
Battlemaid Serena.
This is the place where you find Lam Eason's tome, which a lot of people skip, but it gives you another 5 stat points. And then the other temple is called Disused Fane, which can be one of these 2 layouts. All of the temples here through the rest of Act 3 are very small rooms with 2 different layouts, and they're all very skippable. Anyway, from the Kurast Bazaar, you can enter the sewers. I don't know why this game has so many sewer levels, but the Act 3 sewers have those 4 entrances. These 4 entrances make sort of a hollow square, and the game adds jankiness to it. There are 2 main map tiles that you're looking for here, and they're always 90 degrees apart. You have a sparkling chest, and the hatch to level 2 is clockwise from there. The tile with the entrance to level 2 has a little symbol on it that looks like this. Here's another one. The 4 entrances made a square, the game added some jankiness, and then in the jankiness the chest was here, and the entrance to level 2 was clockwise from there. This area is hard to navigate without teleport. I don't have anything to help you with that, I just wanted to complain. This level is pretty random, but the 4 entrances are always in the same spot, and the objective points are always on side pathways that are 90 degrees from one another. So I'm calling this one fixed enough with a question mark. We take this lever to get to level 2, which is a properly fixed area. It's going to be this layout every time. The next area, Upper Kurast, is another big square, and the exit is always in the middle of the upper right side of the square. Similar to the last level, this has 2 sewer entrances which are in the same place every time, and it has entrances to 2 little temples which have alternating fixed layouts. One is the Forgotten Temple, which looks like this or this, and the other is the Forgotten Reliquary, which looks like this or this. Up next is the fixed map, Kurast Causeway. It's a super small map with entrances to the small temple maps, Disused Reliquary, which looks like this or this, and Ruined Fane, which looks like this or this. To get out of Kurast Causeway, just go up. Then you have the Travancore, which is a large fixed map. The waypoint is always over here, and the Evil Council is always over here. That's where you smash the orb to enter the Durance of Hate level 1. In Durance 1, you go counterclockwise to find Durance level 2. Then in Durance level 2, you go counterclockwise to get to the waypoint, or you go straight ahead to get to the next level. But most of the time, you're probably going to be using the waypoint to get here. So from the waypoint, Durance level 3 is going to be counterclockwise. Durance level 3 is fixed. It's where you fight Mephisto, the Act 3 boss. Don't forget, there's a super chest in the back. So that was Act 3. And this is Act 4. It's amazingly simple. Town is always the same, and when you go down that long staircase, you always enter the next level somewhere along its upper left side. The next level is called Outer Steps, and it's a big square. Wait a second, that actually looks more like a rectangle to me. It's a very square rectangle, but the entrance is always along this side. And the exit to Plains of Despair can only be in one of these 3 places, over here in the left corner, or on one of these 2 spots over by the right corner, but only in those 3 places. Knowing this can save you a ton of time on this level. And Plains of Despair is a big rectangle that can only have an entrance or exit in these 4 possible locations, according to Llama. Also, Isuel is randomly placed on the map. The tile he spawns on always has this little mark on it. It looks different from the other lava pits. You leave Plains of Despair to enter the City of the Damned. In this map, you're looking for the waypoint. Unfortunately, it's randomly placed, but wherever it is, it'll always be right next to the stairs that go down to the next area, River of Flame. River of Flame is a really easy map because the whole way you simply go to the upper right. But it's a weird map too, because some parts of it are fixed and others are not. When you first enter the River of Flame, it's important to know that it branches into 2 main pathways. There's one way which usually goes northeast to the waypoint, and the other way is a perpendicular offshoot to a big tile with the Hellforge on it. There's a boss on that tile that says, "Your soul shall fuel the Hellforge." When you hear him say that, it creates the impression that the Hellforge must be this epically terrifying monument. But then you see the actual Hellforge and you're like, that? I mean, it looks kind of cool, but it also looks like you could get it from a discount furniture store. I'm not judging, I'm sure the logistics were challenging. But anyway, this is where you complete the Hellforge quest. So, you remember Flavie from Act 1? She's always out there fighting stuff, she keeps it real. But then when you get to hell, there's this angel, a being with cosmic powers, and he doesn't help at all. If you talk to him, he pretty much just states the obvious. We are in hell. And if you look over there, more hell. Once you get to the waypoint, that area is a big fixed tile. Keep going northeast and you can get to this area. I call this the road to chaos, and I can help you save time here if you don't teleport. And each one has a version of this H when you walk up. If the H has a tall side, then you go all the way to the left and come back. If the H has its top completely filled in like this, then you take the furthest path to the left here too. If the H is missing part of the bottom, then you hug that H and go around it and stay in the center. And if it's a perfect H, then you go all the way to the right and come back. No matter what, you go to the upper right of your screen to get to the Chaos Sanctuary, the final level of this act. Most of the Chaos Sanctuary is fixed, but each of these 3 branches can spawn in 2 different ways, so I'm pretty sure there are 8 possible maps, making this an alternating fixed map. It's pretty much the same every time, just Diablo keeps his cigar collection on this wall instead of that wall. Once you pop the 5 seals, beat the bosses, and beat Diablo, you go back to town and open the portal to Act 5. Here's the flowchart for Act 5. In Act 5, when you step outside of town, you enter the Bloody Foothills, which is a fixed map. Head to the upper left side of your screen. Right at the end of the level, there's a boss named Shink who hangs out on a tile that has this marking. And then at the top of these stairs is Frigid Highlands. Frigid Highlands always has the waypoint and the boss Eldritch right next to the entrance. This level is a big rectangle and it's pretty easy. The exit's always on the opposite side from the entrance, and there are 3 barricades that stretch across the map. These barricades are where you go to free the barbarians. Kinda weird that Bale took prisoners in the first place. How civil of him. If you cannot teleport, then stay on the north side of the map and you won't run into any walls that you can't blast through. That'll help you if you're trying to speedrun. The big outside maps in Act 5 have red portals which take you to little optional levels, but I find that problematic. You're telling me that in the middle of a battlefield, Bale got some demons who are also expert stonemasons and had them carve and assemble these elaborately ornate portals. I mean, I can accept that, but then why dig a giant hole underneath it? Is that for demons to crawl up out of the ground? Why not just have them take the portal? I don't know, I'm trying to make this fun. Anyway, here's some more maps. Anytime you see a portal outside in Act 5, it'll take you to a level you can totally skip. Like this level, Abaddon. When I tested it out, I got 8 different versions of this map, but they're almost exactly the same, just rotated differently. So back outside, when you get to the Frigid Highlands exit, there's a connection tile to the Ariat Plateau, which is another rectangle. They basically completely plagiarized the last level, but at least you have new enemies to fight. Just kidding, they're the same too. Just like the last level, there are 3 barricade walls that segment the map. Just like the last level, you want to head north and stay on the north side if you can't teleport. Just like the last level, there's an optional red portal. And the portal level, called Pit of Acheron, is literally the exact same layout as the other red portals. 0 points for creativity, Blizzard. So back outside in the overworld, the exit from the Ariat Plateau to the Crystalline Passage is in the center of the short edge on the north, and it's guarded by a super unique. Crystalline Passage has 2 exits and a waypoint. If you're coming from the entrance, then the Glacial Trail exit is counterclockwise, Frozen River is straight, and the waypoint is clockwise. From the waypoint, the previous area is counterclockwise, Glacial Trail is straight, and Frozen River is clockwise. You don't have to go to the Frozen River, but I usually do so I can complete the Anya quest and get a permanent +10 to all resistances. Frozen River is an alternating fixed map, which can be one of these 4 different layouts. If you enter here, you go this way. If your entrance looks like this, you go this way. In this one, you go this way. And if you get this one, you go this way. Alright? So in the next level, the Glacial Trail, the waypoint and the entrance are actually pointing the same way. From either one, you go straight to get to Drifter Cavern, which is an alternating fixed area. It can be one of these. And then from the Glacial Trail, you go counterclockwise to get to the next level, Frozen Tundra. Frozen Tundra is a big rectangle. The entrance is always on the bottom and the exit always on the top. Again, you have 3 barricades here and a red portal map, which is called Infernal Pit. It's exactly the same as the other ones. So back outside, you exit Frozen Tundra to enter Ancient's Way. Ancient's Way is basically a copy-paste of Crystalline Passage. From the entrance, the next level is counterclockwise, the optional dungeon is straight, and the waypoint is clockwise. From the waypoint, the previous area will be counterclockwise, the next level is straight, and the dungeon will be clockwise. The dungeon here is called Icy Cellar. It's an alternating fixed area that uses the exact same maps as Drifter Cavern, so you can have an identical strategy. Skip them both. Area at Summit is a fixed level where you fight these 3 guys. After you beat them, you head into the Worldstone Keep. Worldstone Keep level 1. It's random. Good luck. Worldstone Keep level 2. I don't know how to get there from the entrance, but if you enter from the waypoint, then you go clockwise to get to level 3. Worldstone Keep level 3 is also completely random from what I can tell. The game wants to give you a proper shanking one last time. Then you have the throne room, which is always the exact same, and you can skip over Bale's waves by simply having them chase you out past this little doorway. And then you have the Worldstone Chamber, which is always the exact same. I skipped over the Nihlathak quest, so we still have to go back to the Halls of Hangriness or whatever, but it's really easy. After you free Anya, she opens up a portal in town, which goes to Nihlathak's temple. This is the same every time. You go to the upper right where the exit is guarded by the super unique Pindle skin. Then you take the stairs to the next level, the Halls of Anguish. This map has 4 tiles, and you enter in the middle. The exit can either be here, here, or here, and the other tiles can be one of 2 options. So I think there are 24 different ways this map can generate, but I'm calling it fixed enough because all you need to know is this here is usually an arrow, but if it's a blob, then follow the blob to the exit over here. This here, usually an arrow, but if it's a double shake weight thing, then that is the exit tile. And if both of those are arrows, no blob, no shake weights, then it's up here. Next, we have Halls of Pain. A lot of people say this can only be 3 different maps, but I found a lot of them. I think there are at least 12 different ways this map can generate, but none of that matters. There are only 3 different paths you need to remember. The other stuff can change, but these are always the same. If the waypoint room looks like this, in a hallway like this, then the exit is over here every time, and you go to the lower left to get there. If the waypoint is here, in the room with 6 pillars, then you go over to the left corner. And if it's in a hallway like this, then you want to head straight this way until you see the entrance, and from there head directly to the upper right edge of the map to get to the next level. And finally, we have the Halls of Vought. This can be one of 4 different layouts. Nihlathak is in a different corner for each one. You're looking for these little eyes. If you see the eyes here, go this way. If they're here, go this way. And if they're here, go this way. And if they're there, go this way. The Ubers are technically in Act 5, so let's knock them out too. For the mini Ubers, after you get 3 of each key, you want to make all 3 of the portals in the same game to avoid getting duplicate portals. These 3 portals go to 3 different levels. The most complicated one is Matron Den, where you go counterclockwise to get to Lilith. Here's a little graphic that Teo1904 made to help you find her. Next, the Forgotten Sands is basically Canyon of the Magi without any tombs. It's fixed enough, and Uber Duriel can be anywhere, but he's usually near the middle. And the Furnace of Pain is a red portal level. You go whichever direction the entrance bridge points to get to Uber Izzy. Each of those Ubers drops an organ, and you combine those 3 organs to get to Uber Tristram, which is a fixed map. And that, my friends, is every map in the game. But one more thing that could be really helpful. Each level has a limit to the number of bosses that spawn there, and they don't spawn until you're 2 screens away. Now, let's say you've already spawned the max amount of bosses for the level, and then you go to where a boss is guaranteed to spawn, like I'm about to do here. Even though there's no room, the game will force that guy to spawn anyway, so you can get an extra boss fight, and therefore more loot and experience, if you save the guaranteed boss areas for last. There's a whole lot more to it than that, and if you want to know more, I put a link to a video by BT Neanderthal. He already knocked it out of the park on this topic, and on other speedrunning tricks, so go check that out. He's actually advanced way beyond the Stone Age. Anyway, so there you have it. That's how to navigate every single area of the game. You memorized all that, right? Yeah, I mean, I can't even memorize the stuff, and I made the video. So if you're like me, you'll probably need to keep this guide handy while you play. Less of a map hack in your mind, more of a map hack on your YouTube window. If you can't tell, this took a really long time to make, but it was a labor of love, and it's a small token of my appreciation for this game's community, its content creators, and especially for you if you made it 40 minutes into this thing. I know that getting lost all the time can really make you get burned out on any game. I just want to help you spend less time getting lost in this game, and more time doing the stuff you want to do. I hope this video can make this awesome classic game more fun for more people. I did just set up a Patreon yesterday. Support is always appreciated, but I'm never going to beg you for your money or for likes and subscriptions, no. If you truly enjoy my videos, I encourage you to just do whatever you feel is right. And remember, this is the only place you can get smash hit singles like Name Lock Teleport Concentration Hammer.
Name lock, teleport, concentration hammer.
And of course, did a lot of trading when the farming got slow.
Did a lot of trade when the farming got slow.
And that is my hook. I am the only channel that creates original music about Diablo 2. At least I think so, unless... Oh no.
Many moons have passed since I left the town of... Time to let out my battle cry. I don't find the time to grind to level 99.
Llama already dominates at that too?
Llama!